Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com, back with some more Pittsburgh Steelers tape breakdown and analysis of the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-27 win over the Washington Commanders on Sunday. I think a central reason for, while Washington scored 27 points to keep them off balance and really not in rhythm, and most notably holding rookie sensation quarterback Jayden Daniels to 5 yards rushing, easily his fewest of the season. That was such a critical component and element of this game, subduing the Commanders' run game overall and not letting Daniels' legs be a factor. How did Pittsburgh slow him down as a scrambler and as a design runner? Let's talk about it. Before we start, if you guys could like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Would really appreciate that. So we're going to break this down by how Pittsburgh handled and minimized Daniels in the run game, and then how they contained him as a passer within the pocket. Two separate concepts, different ways to go about that. Will likely be a longer video. I want to show you guys as many clips as I can possible. I will try to, as I always say, and as I usually fail, to make this one shorter, so let's dive on in. I want to start with the run game and the mesh charge idea or concept, and that's one of the tools in Pittsburgh's tool belt in this game. And the mesh point is when the quarterback and the running back meet, and the quarterback is reading and deciding whether to hand the ball to the running back or keep it himself. And so here's the mesh point where the quarterback is reading the unblocked defender, in this case, TJ Watt. And so one idea of many that you can use to try to slow down the quarterback element of the run game is to charge him. And so TJ Watt here, his whole responsibility is to attack the quarterback. He's not reading this play. He's not trying to guess, was he going to keep it? Is he going to read it? He is attacking the quarterback. Mesh charge. We're charging the mesh point, and we're going to force Daniels to give the ball every single time. So we're going to, take the read out of the read option. It's one of the counter punches to it. Now, the downside is the TJ Watt's no longer part of the run, and he can't fit this thing. He can't pursue backside. Ends up being a decent run by Austin Ekeler. They do punch the ball in for a touchdown this drive, but just many different ways to try to slow down the attack, make the other guys beat you, make the running back, and especially when Washington was missing their top running back, Brian Robinson, make someone else beat you instead of Jayden Daniels with his legs. And so the mesh charge idea, we'll get a look at from the other end zone angle, and we're going to see TJ Watt attack him directly. And so we're going to see that as a theme from this game. Later in the game, we're going to see similar, this time from new Steeler number 91, Preston Smith, acquired in the Green Bay Packers deal before the trade deadline. A little less pronounced here, but you can again see him mesh charging, attacking the quarterback the whole way. And typically to that side, they were charging the mesh point at, they were one-gapping and slanting. So watch Larry Ogunjobi, he's going to slant, shoot that gap instead. We're getting, gap here. We're not two-gapping. We're going to attack and be aggressive. And so Smith aggressive on the quarterback, Ogunjobi aggressive into his gap, beating the tight end. He ends up making the tackle, ends up being a really successful run stuff for the Steelers defense, as opposed to the last clip where, Washington had more success down near the goal line. So again, the idea of mesh charge, we're going to force that give the whole way. Take a look at it from the other end zone view, watching Preston Smith attacking the mesh point. Pittsburgh's done this against Baltimore and Lamar Jackson for several seasons on and off, and it's worked to overall success to limit Jackson's legs. And so Pittsburgh will probably do similar against the Ravens on Sunday, although you have a big-time threat in Derrick Henry, so that kind of changes the strategy and the risk a little bit. But more to the point here, watching Preston Smith mesh charge, Ogunjobi slant, ends up being a good outcome for the Steelers defense. One last example, watching TJ Watt again, mesh charge, attacking the mesh point, forcing the give to the running back. It does take an extra player out of the run fit for the defense, but Landon Roberts staying clean, making the tackle. And so there's always a trade-off. If you're going to take Daniels out of it, you're going to probably cost yourself a guy in run defense. But, if you can try to play the read all day and have to try to slow down and guess and let Daniels be in control, you don't want to be playing literal defense on the mesh points. You want to make them have to give the ball every time, especially when they had some backup running backs in this game. And the strategy overall, I thought, worked well to not allow Daniels to really gain the edge. Now, mesh charge is not the only strategy. If you do just one thing to defend the run game, offenses will counter and will eventually gain the upper hand. And so you have to mix things up. And so in this example, we're going to watch this gap scheme from the Commanders. We're going to watch TJ Watt here, the end man on the line of scrimmage. He's going to end up wrong arming the pulling guard. And so he's going to wrong arm and go inside as opposed to being the contained guy. And Patrick Queen's going to scrape over the top here to the outside, and he's going to become the contained guy. So they're going to trade responsibilities as opposed to Patrick Queen playing the B gap, playing downhill here, TJ Watt being the contained guy, and then getting kicked out. They're going to, fold and exchange their responsibilities on this play. Watt's going to come down, play kind of the inside potential run here. Queen's going to come over the top. And in this instance, Daniel's trying to read it. The read gets kind of muddied. Queen's able to stay clean, stay free. Take a look from the other angle. Again, we're seeing wrong arm. We're going to attack with the inside arm here on the puller, try to get it across his face and try to kind of collapse that down as opposed to playing contain on the outside. And then we're going to have Queen scrape over the top here. He becomes good, contain on this play, doesn't get kicked out, doesn't get widened. And then Daniels trying to get upfield, not much there. Nice job by Roberts to stay clean. Daniels goes down. There's nothing there. So it's just an exchange, slant scrape, basically. And part of this is because of the puller. I don't know if Queen was kind of getting to read there as well. But even in some true read option where there's no, backside puller, in this case, the tight end coming across on the split zone action, you still might get that sometimes where it's going to basically, again, taking the read out of it, where you may have the end come down every single time and play the back, and the linebacker will scrape over the top and play the potential quarterback keep. And so that's something you see in college a lot because it is so prevalent, but it has really carried over into the NFL. And then, frankly, sometimes your playmakers have to make more plays than the other team's top guys. And you see that from Patrick Queen right here, number 6, his best game of the season against Washington. Just watch him out here in space. Just be able to explode, pursue, have that sideline-to-sideline range, and track Daniels out there like that. Not too many linebackers can go chase down a guy like Jayden Daniels in space, as Patrick Queen does here, closing that gap, using the sideline, and making that tackle. So sometimes it's less about the scheme and just letting your playmakers make plays, and Queen certainly was brought in for that kind of range and pursuit out there on the perimeter, and he does that here, staying clean, taking the great angle, and just using his speed that certainly brought him to Pittsburgh. Now let's talk passing game, and before we get into the tape, I want to put up on screen right now the percentage of times that Pittsburgh sent 5 or more rushers game by game this season. And what will stand out above all the others is this Washington game where Pittsburgh sent 5 or more rushers, 17 of 31 opportunities. That was 54.8% of the time. And that was certainly not by accident. And part of that was to get pressure, of course, on Daniels, but a lot of it was about rushing to contain. The issue is, when you only rush 4, you're naturally leaving a gap open. You got 5 gaps to account for. You got 4 rushers. That's bad math on your part. And so it's really hard to be able to contain that with only 4 guys. You have to really have a conservative rush, a real mush rush where you're not really trying to get home at all, and somebody's kind of basically spying Daniels and trying to play 2 gaps. And at that point, your rush becomes really ineffective, and then a quarterback has more time in the pocket to make plays. And so you were really kind of rushing in this game to have at least 5 guys to occupy those 5 gaps. And we'll go back to the tape here and we'll see some examples of it. Now, in this case, Pittsburgh only rushes 4, but they give this sim pressure look. And so they're they're mugging Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, number 6 and number 41, into these A gaps. And so what that does, it kind of forces the line to have to respect that potential threat, pinch down. And so that helps the edge rushers, in this case, Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt, help gain this edge. And so we're going to watch the interior line here. They have to respect that. The guard sliding down, the left tackles on Cam Hayward here because they're respecting that, they have to assume these guys are going to rush. And so if we're going to leave somebody unblocked and free, it's going to have to be an outside guy. You block inside out. And so the linebackers pop out. We're getting a good free rush here, forcing that ball out quick on 3rd down. Pass off the mark, receiver, quarterback not on the same page on that little pivot route, ends up being incomplete, and Washington has the punt. So in this case, they didn't actually send 5, but they gave the appearance that they would. the line had to respect that. They're sliding, full slide down here, gets Highsmith free. Ball comes out quicker than what Washington wanted it to. Pass incomplete. Pittsburgh gets off the field. So a nice job here to force Washington to have to change up their scheme and their protection to get a free rusher. And the Pittsburgh, got with Alex Highsmith and create the incompletion. All right, now we're going to see examples of true five-man pressure. And so we saw a lot of blitzing from Landon Roberts and Patrick Queen in this game. And again, it's less about blitzing to get home, and it's at least just as much about blitzing to contain and making sure there is no escape lane here for Jayden Daniels. It's really about rush lane integrity. A pass rush is not just everybody does their own thing without any consideration for what the other guy next to me or the whole scheme is built around to do. You have to kind of know what the guys around you, how they're going to rush. It has to be coordinated and synchronized together. And so a nice job here of everyone occupying gaps. Patrick Queen containing here. Daniels wants to escape. He can't. Has to then reset, play from the pocket. Gets the throw off, but behind and incomplete. And so just a good job here. And we're going to see that consistently throughout these clips of them rushing smart, still getting some pressure, but not letting Daniels escape and run around and either extend the play or scramble for yards. We'll take a quick look from the other end zone angle. We're going to see Queen head on as that fifth rusher. And so that really allows Pittsburgh to have every gap accounted for. Queen over the top here. Good bull rush from Highsmith. Daniels is flushed, wants to escape. Queen won't let him. Daniels has to just get the pass off before getting hit. Inaccurate behind the receiver and incomplete. Same thing later in the game. Landon Roberts this time, an extra rusher. And so in this case, Pittsburgh's going to send him up the middle. Ends up being a six-man rush, which is pretty uncommon for Pittsburgh this season that had been blitzing at a really season-low rate. But again, we're occupying every gap. We got Watt, Ogunjobi, Benton, Roberts, Hayward, and Highsmith. There was nowhere for Daniels to escape to. He tries. TJ Watt, good enough job to contain him. This pass was incomplete. There were offsetting penalties on this play. The play didn't end up counting, but we're just seeing the intent here. These guys are able to one gap and be able to attack upfield. And so we're adding on. We're getting extra rushers in there. Probably a green dog as well from Roberts if the back stays in, then Roberts can blitz. So we're blitzing at least, or we're rushing, I should say, at least 5 here out of Pittsburgh's base 3-4 defense. Roberts adds on as that sixth rusher. Good pressure from Benton. Watt able to contain. And again, just not letting Daniels be able to make those plays with his feet. Now, that's not to say he can't play from the pocket. He's a talented passer. I'm not trying to typecast him as a pure runner, but certainly if you have the choice between having him play from the pocket or running around and scrambling, you would choose the former. And that's what Pittsburgh did and executed well overall. Another example of smart rushing, a little less about let's get home immediately and let's beat the block, but it's really more about let's contain the quarterback. And so Roberts adding on, Pittsburgh rushing 6 here with Roberts being that sixth guy. Just good contain overall. Daniels looks to escape. Roberts is keying him the whole way, keeps him from getting outside the pocket. This throw, not a bad throw from Jayden Daniels, certainly catchable. The rookie Luke McCaffrey can't make the play. Cam Sutton closing quickly, but just to the point of sending extra people to clog up those gaps, contain things well, not give any natural or free escape lanes for Jayden Daniels, make him win with his arm, take away his legs really completely. It's just good, smart rushing overall. Really nice job by Roberts here. This pass incomplete. Another example here on the goal line after Jaylen Warren's fumble. And as a quick sidebar, another wrinkle that Pittsburgh used in this game with Cam Sutton eligible to return in his first game back was, I'll call it 3-4 nickel. I'm sure Pittsburgh has a term for it, but what would happen quite often in this game, especially in the second half, was Pittsburgh would stay in their 3-4, 3 down linemen, 4 outside linebackers or linebackers in general, I should say, but with 3 cornerbacks on the field and only 1 safety. So traditional 3-4, 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, 2 corners, 2 safeties. In this case, Pittsburgh subbed off strong safety Deshaun Elliott and replaced him with Cam Sutton. And so they did that against 3 receiver sets. And so we're seeing a lot of 11 personnel from Washington in the second half of this game. Pittsburgh would respond with their 3-4 nickel. And so in this case, there's one receiver, two receiver, third receiver. Washington is in their pony grouping with two running backs on this play, but this also was true against 11 personnel. And so that allowed Pittsburgh to still play the run out of their oaky 3-4 structure while respecting the pass element of the three receivers on the field. And so Pittsburgh had to play a lot more man coverage in this game because they were sending 5 and 6 people. This situation is sending, 5, they're playing cover 1. And so that got them playing a different game plan. They played a lot of zone coverage this year. And so they kind of had to really change up their approach. If we're going to send more people than we have, we're going to play more man coverage than we have. There's a risk and cost to that. And you could see the Washington, this play a good example. They had some opportunities. They missed some throws. They dropped some passes. But again, you got to weigh the risk and the reward of it all. And so I think I do respect certainly Pittsburgh for changing up their game plan, tailoring it to making sure they're containing somebody like Jayden Daniels. And so rushing 5 here, it's out of their base 3-4. They're not really blitzing an additional player. It's a 3-down lineman, the 2 outside linebackers, but we're sending 5 consistently to make sure there is no escape lane, and Daniels has to throw it. There's no way he's going to be able to run and break contain. DJ Watt also getting held pretty clearly here by one-time Steeler Trent Scott. So a lot going on this play. Certainly could have been a big play, no question about that. This one connects. This one could have been real damaging to Pittsburgh. So that is the risk analysis of it all. But overall, Pittsburgh's game plan in this one was we're going to send 5, we're going to send 6, we're going to play a lot more man coverage, play a ton of cover 1. We're going to add in some different wrinkles of using these 3-corner looks while still running our base 3-4 and give Washington some different looks they probably haven't seen from Pittsburgh. I mean, because they haven't played them, obviously, but also from their tape study, Pittsburgh had a different personality in this game. There was no question about that. To showcase a different wrinkle on the same idea, same possession, Washington backed up. I think this was 3rd down. Pittsburgh used their amoeba front, just one defensive lineman in Cam Hayward. They used 4 linebackers. They got Watt, Highsmith, and Preston Smith all out on the field with Patrick Queen, 6 DBs behind, Casey, Sutton, Beanie Bishop, and the other regular faces out there. And so Pittsburgh only rushed 4 on this play, but they give the stand-up look. They end up stunting, so TJ Watt, Cam Hayward stunts, and that kind of helps to contain a little bit when you're kind of naturally looping to the outside here. Daniels, again, wants to escape. There's some pressure. Left tackle steps on the guard's foot. Highsmith coming in free. He wants to escape. Watt won't let him. Forces that short throw incomplete, and Pittsburgh gets off the field on, as you just saw, 3rd and 8. And so not a 5-man pressure here. Pittsburgh ended up playing zone, I think, on this play. Yeah, this was Pittsburgh's cover 3, the 3 deep shell, deep third, deep middle, deep third, 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath. 4-man rush. That's what Pittsburgh ideally wants to play, but they dressed it up a little bit differently. They rushed a little differently. They stunted here with Hayward and TJ Watt, if I can find the good starting point from this angle. So TJ Watt aligning here as a stand-up inside linebacker, stunts over the top, loops around, contains Daniels. This throw incomplete, and Washington has to punt the ball away. So just different ways of doing things in these 3rd down packages. A lot of different wrinkles for Pittsburgh's defense in this game. Last example, again, Pittsburgh sending 5. Queen as this late blitzer trying to hide that rush as long as he can, and just rushing to rush, but also to contain. And so I thought Pittsburgh had really good rush lane integrity in this game. I think there were points earlier in the season where guys were getting bunched up and guys were running into each other. Remember that one time, maybe against, the Raiders. No, had to been earlier than that, but maybe the Dallas game before Herbig got hurt, where he tried to, I think, spin inside one time and ran into Hayward, and Hayward fell down, and Herbig didn't go anywhere. It was just an absolute mess. And there's been some times this year where Pittsburgh's rush has really gotten bunched up, and it felt like no one was working together in coordinated fashion. And this game felt a lot cleaner, a lot smarter overall. And there's a clean pocket here for Daniels, no question about that. But we're rushing, we're containing him, making sure he can't escape and use his legs. And so we're playing man coverage behind. We're going to see that here. I don't know exactly the man coverage rate that Pittsburgh used in this game, but it was, I could almost guarantee you, a season high. So they're playing, cover one. Yeah, it's basically cover one. These guys are kind of underneath and waiting for these guys to leak out. It's not one robber, one lurker or anything, but we're playing man coverage. James Pierre gets beat, ball underthrown a bit, recovers, gets his head around, makes the play. There is some risk there, certainly, when you're playing man coverage. Pittsburgh ideally is playing a lot more zone than man, but they made the plays. Washington could not, and they kept Daniels in the pocket. It really did not let him scramble around at all. And so a really impressive showing to hold him to all of 5 yards in this game, rushing as long as 4. They sacked him 3 times and limited his legs as well as any team has this season. So a really good game plan, again, for Pittsburgh to really be something they haven't been this season. But they played Baltimore a bunch, obviously, with Lamar Jackson, and so this is not brand new for how they have to attack these really hyper-mobile quarterbacks. And obviously, they'll see the Ravens on Sunday, where I think you'll see some similar things. Although if you're Pittsburgh, to go back to it, if you're going to run mesh charge, do you want Derrick Henry to really, win the day? It's a difference between when it's Austin Eckler or in past years, Gus Edwards in Baltimore versus Derrick Henry. And then, of course, you've just played Washington, so Baltimore's watching this tape. They're seeing Pittsburgh's game plan. If you're Pittsburgh, do you run the same exact game plan? Probably not, because you probably anticipate Baltimore's going to be ready for it. Although, as I'm kind of debating myself here, Baltimore, there's no secrets between these two teams, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. They have a really good idea of what the other side wants to do. So it'll be really fun to watch that game, but I just watched the tape of this one and charted this one out as we do with our weekly charting, where we put down every single play, who's rushing, who's aligning where, all that kind of stuff, all the nuts and bolts of the play. And it was definitely a different feel in this game compared to any other game the Pittsburgh Steelers have played this season. And while it was not perfect, while Washington put up 27 points and had chances for more, it was enough to win the game, especially late in that fourth quarter. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you guys watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.